AITA for refusing to babysit on my first Father's Day? This Sunday is Father's Day. My first Father's Day, actually. I've been looking forward to spending it with my girlfriend and our 7-month-old baby, just the three of us, like a little family day together. That's all I wanted. Nothing extravagant. Just some quality time with the people who made me a dad. But then her brother asked if we could babysit his kid that day because he and his girlfriend wanted to go out. When my girlfriend brought it up, I politely said no. I explained that I really just wanted to have this one day with our baby and her, especially since it's my first Father's Day ever. She didn't take it well. She got salty and now she's been acting passive-aggressive about it. For some context, her brother and I don't get along. At all. He doesn't like me, and honestly, I feel the same way. We don't talk unless absolutely necessary, and even then, barely. He only ever contacts her when he needs a favor, and this is just another example of that. His kid is a good kid, and we've babysat for him before, many times, but still, not on Father's Day. What's bothering me is that on her first Mother's Day, it was just the three of us. No interruptions, no favors, no side obligations, and I was happy to make that day special for her. So I can't understand why she can't return that same gesture now. It's just one day. So, AITA for saying no to babysitting and wanting my own Father's Day to be about my own family? AITA for walking out of a sham wedding and leaving my bride at the altar? I come from a deeply conservative country in South Asia, one of those places where tradition is king and deviation is met with shame. I moved to the US for graduate school, and that's where I met the love of my life, my husband. Coming out to my parents wasn't easy. They didn't embrace it, but they reluctantly tolerated it. That was the best I could hope for. A few months ago, my father reached out with a request. My grandfather's health was declining, and his final wish apparently was to see me married before he passed. Of course, no one had told him I was gay. He was too old to handle the truth, they said. I initially pushed back, but my husband, of all people, encouraged me to go along with it. It's just a performance, he said. You don't have to mean it, and we know what's real. Plus, there was the not-so-small matter of the inheritance that was supposed to come my way, so I flew home, prepared to go through the motions. The ceremonies began, and I just assumed the bride was in on the act, that this was an agreed-upon charade to keep up appearances. But on the wedding day, everything changed. I saw actual legal registry papers being brought out to be signed. Right. There in front of my grandfather. That's when it hit me. My parents hadn't told anyone the truth. Not the bride, not her family. To them, this wasn't just a show. It was real. Panic set in immediately. I wasn't just playing along anymore. I was being asked to commit fraud. Worse, I was going to blindside a woman who believed this was her wedding day. I stood up, told the entire room that I was gay and already married, and I left. First flight out. When I got home, my mom called in tears. Apparently, the bride's family had been humiliated. They lashed out at my grandfather, and his health got even worse afterward. Now my mother says I'm selfish and cruel for ruining everything, but I can't help thinking, wouldn't it have been far worse to go through with the wedding, sign those papers, and trap an innocent woman in this lie? So, was I the asshole?
AITA for telling my husband's Italian friend to cook for herself, and that I wouldn't eat her food. My husband's friend from Bellagio, Italy, came to stay with us in Melbourne for a week, and it's been exhausting. I genuinely tried to be a good host. I wanted to show her around and introduce her to the amazing variety of food we have here, but nothing seemed to be good enough for her. We took her to some of our favorite restaurants. Sushi, Thai, Chinese, you name it. She flat out refused to try anything that wasn't Italian. So we gave in and went out for Italian food 3 days in a row. Still, she nitpicked everything. The pasta texture, the cheese, even the bread. It's just not like in Italy, she kept saying. She complained about the wine being flavorless. And when I ordered a cappuccino at 4 p.m., she gave me a lecture about how Italians don't drink cappuccino after noon. I just told her, well, I drink what I want, when I want. That didn't go over well either. Things came to a head when we went grocery shopping. We were in the pasta aisle, and she took it upon herself to give me a public pronunciation lesson on each type of pasta, correcting me loudly in the middle of coals. At that point, I was just trying to keep my cool. That night, I cooked at home, Asian food because I'm Asian, and I love cooking dishes full of flavor and spice. As soon as she walked in, she wrinkled her nose and said, my house smelled bad because of fish sauce. She refused to eat my food and asked my husband to take her out for lasagna again. When she came back, she told me I should really learn to cook Italian food properly because fusion food is bad for my husband and online recipes are stupid for straying from the roots. I lost it. I told her she was being arrogant and obnoxious, that she wasn't in Italy anymore and should be grateful for the food available here. If she couldn't tolerate anything non-Italian, she could shop, cook, and eat alone. I added that unfortunately, the ingredients won't be as good as in Italy, but hey, welcome to travel. She cried and decided to cut her visit short. Now, my husband says she's just old-fashioned and barely ever traveled. This was only her second trip outside Italy in 60 years, and the first one was over 25 years ago. He suggested I apologize just to smooth things over, but honestly, I refused. If someone can't step outside their own culture at all, especially when they're in someone else's home, I don't see why I should cater to that. So, AITA. I don't feel fear anymore, and it's turned me into someone I barely recognize. Back in 2009, I suffered a traumatic brain injury. Technically, I died. Obviously, I was resuscitated, but the damage was done. Permanent brain trauma that changed everything about who I was. The days that followed were surreal. I was in the hospital for 3 days, and no one expected me to make it, but I did. Somehow. What didn't survive was my memory. I have permanent amnesia. Every personal memory I had before the injury, gone. I couldn't remember my mother's face. I didn't even recognize my own reflection. Everything before 2009 is patchy at best, like a half-wiped hard drive. The hardest part wasn't just the memory loss. It was realizing what I had become. It took 5 years of struggling to understand that the emotional part of my brain, specifically my amygdala, had been permanently damaged. I had lost the ability to feel fear, just gone, and I can't describe how inhuman that feels. People think fear is a weakness. It's not. It's a boundary, a governor on your actions. Without it, there's less holding you back from anything, and that's not as freeing as it might sound. I couldn't connect emotionally with my wife anymore, and eventually she became my ex-wife. I couldn't fix what was missing. What's left behind are emotions that feel amplified. I feel love deeply, overwhelmingly so, but anger hits just as hard, and I fear what would happen if I ever let hate take root. I don't think I'd be able to let it go. Anger is already difficult enough. When it comes, it's like flipping a switch. I hear blood rushing in my ears. My vision narrows. It's like my whole body is bracing to explode, so I fight it. I grip desks until my knuckles go white. I clench my fists until they ache. I stay silent and still until the rage settles into something manageable. I've learned to mask it, to push it down, to keep that volatile side of me hidden. No one knows what's going on behind the mask. I don't want them to. I don't want them to be afraid of me, but I worry what would happen if they saw what I've become, and I worry even more about what might happen if I ever stop seeing it too.
He left my house in ruins for a vacation, so I destroyed the gift he was polishing for himself. A few years back, my wife and I finally scraped together enough savings to renovate the kitchen and bathroom in our first home. It was a big deal. We had been putting money aside for months. I wanted to go with a professional contractor, someone who would treat the job like business. But my wife was adamant that we hire her brother-in-law's company. He's family, and he'll take care of us, she said. Against my better judgment, I agreed. Big mistake. Right away, things seemed to move fast. Old appliances gone, cabinets ripped out, bathroom gutted. We were basically squatting in our own place. Then, just a few days in, the guy vanishes. No updates, no calls, no texts. Total radio silence. We later find out he jetted off on a 2-week vacation without mentioning a thing. So now we're living in a construction zone with no kitchen or bathroom. Ended up couch surfing with friends, hopping around for nearly 2 weeks. It was a nightmare. When he finally reappeared, work resumed, but half-heartedly. He'd swing by for an hour here, maybe 2 there, clearly juggling other projects. What was supposed to be a 2 to 3 week job dragged into its 5th week with barely any progress. Our home still looked like it had been hit by a wrecking ball. And then came the part where I decided to get petty. In the midst of this mess, we still had an old IKEA butcher's block in the kitchen. It wasn't anything glamorous, just solid. Wood I'd used for years. He'd asked if he could take it once the new kitchen was in. I said sure, assuming we'd be done soon and I'd be glad to have it gone. Well, I came home one day and found the block had been lovingly restored. Sanded, oiled, polished. It looked brand new. Clearly he'd been putting real time and care into fixing it up. Meanwhile, my kitchen still looked like a disaster zone and the bathroom wasn't even close to finished. I lost it. Dragged that beautiful butcher's block out back, took a hammer to it and shattered it into pieces. Dumped every last bit in the trash. The next day, he showed up, noticed it was gone. He looked confused and sort of sad. I didn't explain, and he didn't ask. It took him another 4 weeks to finish the job. I learned a valuable lesson. Never hire family for projects like this, and I'm glad he never got to enjoy that butcher's block. We haven't spoken of it since.
AITA for refusing to let my sister borrow my designer dress for my ex-fiancé's wedding. I have a younger sister, Mia, and our relationship has always been complicated. She's often been jealous or competitive with me over the years. Last year, my fiancé Ben dumped me abruptly and very publicly and is now engaged to what used to be one of my close friends, Zoe. Their wedding is next month, and as you can imagine, the whole situation has been incredibly painful for me. Recently, I treated myself to a gorgeous, expensive designer dress for a formal charity event I have coming up. It was a splurge, but after everything I've been through, I felt like I deserved something special. Well, yesterday Mia came over, saw the dress, and immediately asked if she could borrow it to wear to Ben and Zoe's wedding. She said it was perfect and that she needed to look amazing, and since I wasn't using it that day, I should just let her have it for the weekend. I told her absolutely not. It's for my own event, and even more importantly, it would feel incredibly disrespectful and hurtful for her to wear it to that wedding. She got furious, called me selfish, and went crying to our parents saying I was being petty and a bad sister. Now my parents think I should just let her borrow it to keep the peace. But I feel strongly that this is about boundaries and basic empathy. So, AITA for not letting her wear it.
AITA for going Braless in my own garden. Even though it upset my neighbor, I live in a housing complex with a small private garden space of our own. The area is semi-private. There are bushes planted by the complex for separation, but they're not very tall, so it's pretty easy to see into neighboring gardens or even from the shared courtyard area. The other day, I was sitting in my garden wearing just a shirt with no bra, and one of the neighbors came over to complain about it. I was so caught off guard that I immediately apologized just to avoid conflict, but afterward I started questioning why I even had to. It's not like I was nude, I was fully dressed, and honestly, even if I were in public, being braless wouldn't be illegal or inappropriate. This is my own outdoor space, and I should be able to relax in it however I want. especially if I'm still covered. Now I'm debating whether I should say something the next time I see him. Part of me wants to calmly defend myself, but another part worries it could escalate or get posted in our complex's shared Facebook group, which would just be humiliating. I don't want drama, but I also don't think I should have to change how I dress in my own garden just because someone else is uncomfortable. Got suspended over a misunderstanding, so I took the best vacation on their dime on. A Monday evening, I asked my manager if it was okay for me to skip my upcoming morning shift. He assured me it was fine. He said the new hire would be in for training, and with it being a slow lunch period, they'd have more than enough coverage. That worked for me. The following day, I got a message from the owner, who's known for being as jumpy and impatient as a squirrel on espresso. He asked why I didn't show up for work. I explained exactly what my manager had told me. His response? That the trainee wasn't considered a proper server yet, and since I didn't personally get someone to replace me, it counted as a no-show. As punishment, he handed me a week-long suspension. Now here's the kicker. I'm arguably their top performer. I'm never late. I consistently get excellent tips, and customers literally name-drop me in glowing online reviews. But instead of arguing, I just replied with a calm, "All right, see you in a week." What did I do with that week off? Exactly what any burned-out employee would. I slept in, binged movies, played rounds of disc golf, and spent quality time with my girlfriend and my friends. It turned out to be the most relaxing week I'd had in a long while. Come Friday night, my phone buzzed. Guess who? The frantic owner, practically begging me to come in. They were so understaffed they were contemplating putting the dishwashers on the floor. He wanted me to work Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday brunch, all while my suspension was technically still active. I politely declined and told him I still hadn't learned my lesson yet, so unfortunately, I couldn't possibly help out. When I returned the following week, the vibe had totally changed. Everyone was incredibly nice to me. Still are, actually. Manager banned phones at work, then got mad when I followed the rule. A new policy rolled out at work. No personal phones during work hours. They had to be on silent, out of sight, and absolutely not in use. Fine by me. I turned mine off and locked it in my locker every shift. No exceptions. This went on without issue until a few days later, when my manager pulled me aside, clearly irritated, and asked why I hadn't answered her call. She said she'd needed to urgently check something with me. I just reminded her I was following the new policy. My phone had been off and stashed, like we were all told to do. She didn't love that answer. Said I should have used judgment and answered if it was her calling. But I wasn't about to risk getting written up for breaking a rule she had just finished lecturing everyone about. And here's the kicker, after that, all talk of the no phones policy suddenly vanished. No more reminders, no more enforcement. I'm guessing I wasn't the only one who let a few of her calls ring into the void that week. AITA for refusing to replace my nephew's leather jacket. After my dog had an accident on it, we have 3 dogs, including one we recently adopted after his owner passed away. He's gentle but sensitive and prefers quiet, so when we have guests, he usually retreats upstairs to our bedroom. He also has a sensitive stomach and can't tolerate anything but his usual dry food. Anything else causes stomach upset, and because he has long fur, it's not a minor cleanup. This weekend we hosted family, and everyone brought food for a buffet. My 3 brothers, their wives, and a bunch of their older kids came over. We've had issues in the past with guests feeding the dogs despite being told not to, so I loudly warned everyone as they arrived. Don't feed Pickles any treats or human food, or you'll be the one upstairs shampooing the poop out of his fur. My sister-in-law Tracy laughed and made a joke about me being too graphic, but I stood my ground and reminded everyone that Pickles is more sensitive than the other dogs. Later, my husband found a sausage roll upstairs. My nephew Dave admitted he'd tried to make friends with Pickles by giving him food. We were annoyed, but everyone else acted like it wasn't a big deal. That's when I realized everyone had dumped their coats in our bedroom like they always do. I hadn't thought to tell them otherwise. When I checked on Pickles, I saw he'd had a small accident, likely from the sausage roll, and some of it had gotten on Dave's leather jacket. Pickles had never had an indoor accident before, and clearly didn't want to come downstairs with a crowd around. I got him into the shower to clean him up while my husband came to help. People came upstairs to see what was going on, and Dave absolutely lost it when he saw his jacket, yelling, red-faced, accusing me of having the dog poop on it intentionally to make a point. We cleaned the jacket with antibacterial wipes, and it looked fine. No visible marks or smell, but of course it would need a proper cleaning. The party ended abruptly, and Dave and Tracy stayed behind to yell until my brother got them to leave, saying we'd deal with it later. I thought the whole thing would blow over, but it didn't. Now Dave and Tracy are texting nonstop, demanding $150 for a new jacket. I keep saying no. It was his fault, and I was the one cleaning up the mess. At first my husband agreed, but now he's wavering, saying we should have moved the coats ourselves since we knew someone would probably ignore us. He says I'm being technically right and missing the bigger picture. Dave's just a teen, and this isn't worth the fight. And maybe he's right. I mean, if the dog had chewed the coat, I'd replace it immediately without question. That makes me wonder if I'm being unreasonable here. I offered to cover cleaning costs, but they won't accept that. So, AITA for refusing to punish my daughter for kicking her cousin after he hit her. My 6-year-old daughter and I were at my nephew's 4th birthday party over the weekend, hosted at my sister's house. It was your usual big family gathering, plenty of food, chaos, and kids running wild in the backyard while the adults caught up. At one point, I heard yelling and crying coming from outside. I looked over and saw my daughter standing next to one of her cousins, who was sitting on the ground, holding his stomach. His mom rushed over and immediately started scolding my daughter, demanding to know why she had kicked him. My daughter looked upset but composed. and she explained that her cousin had punched her in the arm because she didn't want to give him a toy. She said she told him to stop and tried to walk away, but when he hit her again, she kicked him in the stomach. His mom was livid and insisted I punish my daughter and make her apologize. I told her I'd speak to my daughter in private, but that I wasn't going to discipline her for defending herself. I explained to my daughter that kicking should always be a last resort, and that if possible, it's better to go get an adult. But I also made sure she knew that if someone keeps hitting her and won't stop, she's allowed to protect herself. Now, some of my relatives are saying I handled the situation poorly and that I'm encouraging violence, but I don't see it that way. I don't want my daughter to be aggressive, but I absolutely want her to understand that she doesn't have to just stand there and take it when someone's hurting her. So AITA for not punishing her? AITA for refusing to pay for a drink I never wanted and walking out of my friend's birthday dinner? I'm part of a friend group of 5 women, including myself, ages ranging from 21 to 26. What happened yesterday has me wondering if I was wrong to walk out of a dinner without paying for something I didn't want in the first place. It was Lily's 21st birthday, and she wanted to celebrate with a fancy dinner. All 5 of us showed up. I'm the only one in the group who doesn't drink. Never have, never will. Everyone else knows this about me. As we got settled, Lily, all giddy, suggested I order an alcoholic drink. I politely declined. Then the rest of the group jumped in, encouraging me to just try one. Again, I said no, but they wouldn't let it go. It turned into this weird group effort to pressure me. 5 full minutes of them pushing, laughing, saying things like, "Come on, just one, and you'll like it, trust us." They even sent the waiter away because I hadn't agreed yet. I get overwhelmed when I'm being pressured by multiple people, and eventually, I gave in just to shut them up. Lily recommended a beginner-friendly drink. I told them I still didn't want it and that I knew I wouldn't like it, but they insisted. Sure enough, the drink comes, I take one sip, and yep, I hate it. They encouraged me to give it a chance, but I set it aside and they finally dropped the topic. When the bill came, I paid for my meal only and excluded the drink. That's when the questions started. Why aren't you paying for the drink? You ordered it. I told them flatly that I didn't want it. They pressured me into getting it, and I wasn't going to pay for something I never wanted in the first place. Lily tried to say, well, you could have said no, which I absolutely did, multiple times. The back and forth continued until I finally got up, left the restaurant, and sent Lily money to cover just my food. I also added that if no one wanted to cover the drink, maybe they shouldn't have pressured me into getting it. Now my husband fully supports me and even said I should put some distance between myself and these friends. But I've been getting non-stop messages from the group, accusing me of being dramatic, selfish, and making the night awkward. So I'm wondering, was I out of line for walking out and refusing to pay for the drink they pushed on me? AITA for sending my boyfriend food at work, when my ex works there too? I was married for 4 years. We split after finding out I couldn't have kids. For me, it wasn't devastating. I've always been okay living child-free. But my ex was set on having a mini-me and continuing his legacy. Overall, our marriage wasn't bad, but that was a deal breaker for him. I wasn't heartbroken, honestly. It turns out there's much better out there. My current boyfriend is genuinely the kindest person I've ever known. For context, we live in a small town, and apparently I have a type. My boyfriend of 7 months happens to work with my ex. They're both military contractors at the same airfield, doing different tasks but in the same work zone and with the same crew. I absolutely love to cook and bake. That said, I'm trying to avoid giving myself diabetes, so I don't eat everything I make. When I was married, I used to pack my ex's lunches and occasionally send trays of baked goods to his workplace. I've taken several culinary courses and have been told what I make is bakery quality. Funny enough, when I first started dating my current boyfriend, he admitted he always looked forward to the treats I sent when I was still with my ex. Now I pack his lunches and send food with him to work, just like I used to. Apparently, the guys at work have been giving my ex a hard time. Dating hasn't gone well for him since the divorce, not surprising, and now they're ribbing him even more. They've been teasing that I upgraded. Same job title, but with a hotter guy. My boyfriend doesn't mind. The jokes all play in his favor and make him look good. The others keep saying he's lucky, and he agrees. Well, I recently got a long text from my ex, asking me to stop sending food to work with my boyfriend, because it's making things awkward for him. He also asked me not to show up at their annual 4th of July get-together. I kind of feel like he's offloading his insecurity onto me. I don't think it's fair. He's the one uncomfortable, but I'm the one being asked to change. Still, I'm not totally heartless. So if people genuinely think I'm out of line, I'll consider backing off. AITA for taking the business class seat on an international flight. While my wife stayed in economy, my wife and I recently flew internationally to visit her family. We both travel a lot for work, so we've racked up a decent amount of airline status and miles. When we initially booked the trip, we chose economy seats. It was the most budget-friendly option at the time. A couple of weeks before the flight, the airline emailed both of us saying we were eligible to upgrade using our miles. I brought it up with my wife and asked if it was okay for me to go ahead and upgrade. She said yes, go for it. Since our frequent flyer accounts are separate, we each had to handle our own upgrades. I even offered to log into her account and process the upgrade for her when I did mine, but she told me not to worry. She'd take care of hers. In the days leading up to the flight, I reminded her a few times to do it, but she never got around to it. On the day of travel, when we arrived at the airport, I asked again and she just kind of brushed it off. I told her again that I could swap seats with her if she wanted. She said no. She didn't seem bothered and we went to our respective check-in lines, business class for me, economy for her. It wasn't until we were boarding that she suddenly seemed surprised. She asked me why I didn't downgrade my ticket to sit with her, and I was caught off guard. I told her I genuinely didn't know she wanted that. She didn't say much, just turned around and went to her seat, clearly annoyed. After we landed, she was short with me and didn't want to talk. Throughout the whole trip, she'd make these little passive-aggressive remarks about how luxurious my flight must have been or how cramped the back of the plane was. I tried to bring it up and clear the air, but she shut it down. We sat together on the return flight, and she didn't mention it. But now that we're home, the comments have started up again. Things like, hope your seat had enough legroom, mine sure didn't. Or, next time, maybe I'll just send you up front while I hang with the luggage. I've talked to some friends about it. A few say I did nothing wrong. I gave her a chance to upgrade, offered to help, and even offered her my seat. Others say I should have just given her the business class seat regardless. So now I'm wondering, was I the jerk for not giving it up?